Could you join us for a salute to the flag and also remain standing for a moment of silence for Carol Baker, who was a employee for over 30 years in the Abington school system, and Judith Stevens, who was 30 years of a paraprofessional in the Abington Public Schools. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kevin, could you say a couple words about Chief Lynch?
Yes, February 15th, 1942, Abington Police Chief Thomas Lynch was in pursuit of a car with Patrolman John Litchfield up on Brockton Avenue across from what is now the Center Avenue Fire Station, and was hit in the side by a drunk driver. He died as a result of his injuries. His anniversary of his death was, as I said, February 15th. He is the only Abington police officer that was actually killed in the line of duty, and his name is memorialized in the National Law Enforcement Memorial in D.C. The other patrolman that was in the car at the time, John Litchfield, spent many months in the hospital, and upon his release, the selectmen at that time appointed him chief of police, and he served for a number of years as well.
Thank you, Kevin. First item on the agenda is a storm update from police, fire, DPW, and the schools. Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought it would be great. First, I want to offer my thanks to Public Safety, to DPW, and to the schools for the great cooperation, making sure that our residents were well informed and protected. These were extraordinary circumstances with getting our streets cleaned and things like that, and getting the schools back open, and most importantly, to provide for our citizens that may have not had power and stuff. Amy and her team did a great job having the shelter open once again, and Chris. So I thought, Mr. Chairman, it'd be great. I know Fire Chief, Police Chief, School, and DPW directors here, so maybe if they could all come up, if that's okay with you, and just give us a quick
Please, definitely.
update. We'll go with the Police Chief, and then...
The only complaints I heard were from parents saying, where can I drop my kid? Because I've had it with them at home. So, Chiefs?
Sure.
Superintendent?
So it snowed a lot. Yeah, this was our first big one in a long time, and it was my first as a chief here, and the communication between all the departments and through the town manager was incredible. We were all on the same team. We were all rowing in the same direction. Having a public safety team with the fire department and the public works here is incredible. I cannot get over the roads the following day from the storm. I was just very, very impressed. I drive through Stoughton, Avon, Holbrook, Brockton. People were abandoning their cars in Holbrook and Brockton on the next day, and I come get onto Chestnut Street and it's down to pavement. So it was incredible. We had to hire some extra staff. We worked with the senior center, and we kept an officer available to them to drive the bus in case anybody needed to respond and go to the senior center for warming. Thankfully, myself, and I don't want to speak for Jack, but we were on email with National Grid, and they were updating with power outages, and Abington wasn't hit too hard with power outages, thankfully. And so, but if we were ready. So I was just really impressed with our team and the team of Abington altogether. So it was great.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Chief Glenn?
Thanks. I'll second what Chief Bonnie was saying about the streets. I had to drive my wife to work Monday morning at 6 a.m. and Route 18 was 10 miles an hour with visibility of about 5 feet. I couldn't see a lane in front of me, and I couldn't imagine what these guys were going to go through. By the next day, Abington streets were phenomenal. We put extra people on as well. We split the town. It benefited between the two stations. It benefited on a couple medical calls because we had extra people. A lot of people think, well, we show up with the ambulance and we do it. Well, trying to go through waist-high snow to get a stretcher to the door or carry someone out. So we had the We call them the extraordinary snow blowers, otherwise known as firefighters. So we got that taken care of. I was on with our National Grid liaison that I've worked with for about 7 years now, and he would update on a regular basis with me by cell phone. Very impressed that one of the poles we had at a 45-degree angle over Center Ave right in front of Deanne's. We reported it, the police stood by with it. Once the winds died down that night, they actually had a crew from Indiana that actually replaced the pole that night. So they were working all across. Like I said, we ended up putting the extra staff on, so that worked out well. What we had to do was a little different in some of the other communities. We saw some of the other communities were having issues with fire engines getting stuck and everything. Bulldozers were getting stuck. So what we did was we revamped our run system a little bit. It was a little risky at certain times, but for medical calls that we'd normally send an engine crew, we sent 2 of them in the brush truck with the 4-wheel drive because it's narrower, it's a little more agile, and we're less likely to get it stuck. We're just transitioning back to the engine now. If we had a fire call come in, obviously we take the fire engine rather. So basically that's about it. The biggest challenges we have right now is accessibility to people's homes and hydrants. And we're working on it. People in the public have been phenomenal. Our guys are exhausted, but they're out doing hydrants now. Heard from Crystal at the water department this morning. She said in between meter readings and things they're doing, they're going to send crews out too. Some of them are missing the little locator poles. Well, we've got 50 more that we're going to try to get on there at some point as we're trying to bury some of them. But all in all, we figure the snow might be melted by August, so we'll be pretty excited when that happens. And for any of you that fell down in the storm and you're doing okay, I feel your pain because my wife caught me on a personal video the other night with my snow blower, and the best way we can describe it is I look like the little kid from A Christmas Story that couldn't get up when I went backwards into the snow pile and disappeared. So hang in there, but we're doing well.
Thank you, Chief. Felicia, School Superintendent?
So we were not in session on Monday and Tuesday, so thank you to police, fire, and DPW. I spent the morning around our schools. I spent yesterday and today, but every comment I heard from our staff was how amazing our streets and our schools were. So I need to thank our DPW and our custodial and maintenance staff for the work that they've done since 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Our staff and DPW through our buildings, I would pick up the phone and call John, and he answered first ring, and he hasn't stopped answering my calls, so thank you. Some cleanup, on the boulevard this afternoon for dismissal, and John's on it, but other than that, very successful opening this morning. Buses were on time, little delays. There was an accident in town which caused some bus delays, but for the most part, kids were ready, and I think parents were even more ready. So, so thank you all.
Thank you. John Stone, DPW Director. John,
Thank you all.
outstanding job,
Thank you all
by
for
the
the
way.
kind words.
Yes. And I know I said it when we had our emergency meeting Sunday, I don't think people understand, the DPW is working out of an open parking lot this winter because of the building of the new facility. So it's not even a matter of getting in your truck in the garage and opening the door and driving out. They have to dig them out. It's probably been the worst could
Yes.
be for you guys, so
We have
we acknowledge.
Thank you very much. We have the best staff led by Operations Manager Brian McLaughlin. They did outstanding. We had 24.5 inches of snow certified, and it all came down within 24 hours. It was really bad out here, and thank you for the kind words, Chief and Felicia. We're still working. Thank everyone for their patience out there. We're still working on sidewalks and pushing down piles. That will continue throughout the week. And a week from Wednesday, it's supposed to be 65 degrees, so.
Good job. Sure.
And I just want to take the opportunity, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Deputy Chief Postel. It's been fantastic working with Samantha to make sure and sending everything to me to review statements. He was incredible getting the statements all put together with information from all facets of our town government to get out on social media so that residents weren't in the dark of what was going on, so thank you.
And one other thing, I wanted to mention Amy Barrett and her staff at the Council on Aging, the Senior Center, which they've been open for 2 storms. We've been lucky enough that no one has needed it, but you guys were there, and Chris Schultz, wherever he is, been down there overnights, both nights, to help out, so noted. Excellent work. Thank you. Next on the agenda, I want to just jump ahead to Gordon Circle if I could, so the neighbors don't have to sit through the budgets and things. Gordon Circle is down for road acceptance. There was a petition article received by the Selectman's office, and it met the requirements, so the road acceptance for Gordon Circle will be on town meeting, to be voted on by town meeting. That being said, we don't need to take a vote for that because it's automatic. But there's some issues up on the street. It's a 20-year-old, some 20-some-year-old street. The people want it accepted. I agree with them. And what I'd like to do, and I don't think we need a vote, is have the town manager meet with the 4 neighbors affected, so you can be brought up to speed on what's going on there and be ready for them to make the presentation at town meeting.
I'll be happy to do that.
Because it's not, to me, it's not on them. You know, they bought the house in good faith, and it fell through the cracks, and we need to get the road accepted for them, so. And they did their part, they did the petition article, and it'll be on town meeting, so hopefully the town meeting will vote to accept it. So, that all right with you guys? We just didn't want Ted Duggan to get up and talk, we don't have that kind of time. So, all right, so the big thing is it'll be on town meeting for acceptance, and the town manager will be reaching out to you guys to schedule a meeting so you can bring them up to speed on exactly what's going on up there, so we know what's going on. All right? Thank you. You're welcome. Next on the agenda is Sulcho Votech, and I'm going to turn that over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, Mr. Hickey, who's the superintendent, wanted to be here today. He was scheduled to be here. We had to move the meeting. He thought he might be able to make it, and then I told him we moved it to 11. He's had some personal issues, so he wasn't able to be here. He hopes to get caught up. I know he's hoping to go to FinCom, and he said if possible, he'd come to a future Select Board meeting. But very simply, there's 2 things that we would need to vote on. One, he sent us, well, actually, they're both very good news. The first and easiest is Pembroke residents voted to authorize them to join. In order for them to join, a majority of the towns that are already in have to, with the South Shore Regional Technical Vocational, have to vote to allow Pembroke in. So ask the board to support that warrant article allowing Pembroke to join. It reduces all of our fixed costs, especially with the new building. And then the other good piece of news is that our share of district asset went down. It's actually gone down twice. It was down to $1,310,277, and last night they had a meeting, further refined their numbers, and the town's assessment for FY27 has been dropped to $1,296,917. So, we need every penny we can, so that was good news. So I would ask the board to support the FY27 assessment at the $1,296,917, and then to support the warrant article of allowing Pembroke to join.
We can do that as one vote?
I would do just 2 votes to be, yeah.
Okay, Kevin's going to make a motion.
To recommend approval of the Social Votech $1,296,917 assessment to the town of Abington.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Vote unanimous.
Move we approve the inclusion of the town, recommend approval of the town of Pembroke into the region.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, vote is unanimous.
Excellent.
Well, that's all we need for the vote, Tech?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is going to be the town manager FY27 budget presentation and capital budget. I want to thank all the department heads for being here. We appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the board, to our department heads and residents that are tuning in. Before I present the Town of Abington's FY27 budget, I wanted to share some background information on how, as a community, we've gotten to this point financially. You will see from the slide shown the budget busters: healthcare, pension, fuel, utilities, collective bargaining agreements, and debt services. I do want to thank Andrew for pulling the slides and information together up on the screen for us to share. It's important to note that our CBAs have been fair and competitive to ensure that our employees feel respected and appreciated for the work that they do each day on behalf of our residents. Our town budget, just like any of our surrounding towns, is comprised of approximately 80% of labor cost. Our pension cost in Plymouth County is accelerated to get Plymouth County Pension Fund fully funded by 2032. Special thanks to Treasurer O'Brien and the Plymouth County Commissioners for being so far-sighted in this initiative. On a brighter note, once the pension fund is fully funded, a portion of those funds that won't be needed can be used to support our general government and school needs. From a revenue perspective, our local aid is not keeping pace with the cost of doing business. This year's unrestricted local aid, after you take out the state assessment, nets out to approximately 1.1% increase over the previous fiscal year, and Chapter 70 local aid at approximately 2.3%. Our local receipts are trailing off due to the economy. You'll see that for FY26 local receipts, excise, permits, investment income, Medicaid reimbursement, marijuana, and excise tax are trending down approximately by 18.5%, and that will affect our FY27. This is significant when the cost to provide those services demanded by our residents for public safety, education, human services, trash, water, and sewer continue to rise with inflation. Moving forward to FY27, the Select Board's vision is to keep our residents safe with excellently trained police and fire personnel to provide safe and comprehensive learning environment in our schools that will get our children prepared for college, trade, and adult life. The town will continue to move ahead in FY27 by meeting the requirements of providing 21st century community that will include the fruits of our residents' investment with the opening of a new fire headquarters and a DPW facility. Just a month ago, the town saw the opening of the new fuel depot and salt shed, both integral to the sound operation of our town government. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our phenomenal library, wonderful programs the staff provides to our families, residents, and seniors. We're blessed to have a beautiful senior center whose leadership and staff are dedicated and committed to providing unparalleled opportunities for our seniors to remain physically active, well-educated, and informed on senior issues, providing Meals on Wheels to our seniors who can't get out of their home, travel opportunities, and other social activities, keeping their mind and body strong. As we approach FY27, I want to be honest with the residents, this will be a very difficult and challenging budget, hindered by a decrease in local revenues, a smaller share of local aid, and the need for an override to provide these services, providing that the legislative body town meeting supports these needs. We are not alone. More than 40 other communities in Massachusetts are facing similar circumstances. I will take all steps necessary to minimize our cost and employ all efforts to generate additional revenue. And now I'll jump into the actual budget presentation. I have to just get my paper copy because my vision doesn't see that well, unless Andrew can make that bigger. Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, so let's start with, you'll see at the very top, you're going to see total revenue, operating expense, warrant article for level funded. You'll see that we're going to need $2,835,662, which you'll see later in the presentation that we were able to do, so we will have level funded for FY27. The level services requires an additional boost, and you'll see that that level is $6,461,101. So level funded means that you have the same funding to operate your budget that you did in FY26 and FY27. So on the surface, it sounds like, okay, level funding makes sense, but in reality, it's actually a cut. Because when you factor in collective bargaining agreements, when you factor in the additional cost for pension, the additional cost for health care, electrical and utility needs, gas cost, it's a negative number. That's why, to sustain the services that the residents expect, there's going to be a cost to that. And we'll go through and see what those costs are. And then it's really going to be up to the residents, to the folks at town meeting, because we need to get 2 positive votes on the override. Would need the support of the additional revenue at town meeting, and then we'd need them to go to the ballot box in the special election and vote for it there. So we'll begin to go through the general fund revenue estimates. You'll see FY '26 estimate was $44,014,167, and the FY '27 estimate is $48,491,573. And you can see that we're growing, the cost of growing, the revenue's growing, which is good, and that's really being pushed by, if you look at that chart, it's really being pushed by real estate tax and the 2% levy adjustment that we do every year. There is some new growth, so not as robust as we'd like to see, but, you know, Abington has challenges. You know, we're not able to really do development, bring in additional businesses until we address the water issue. So that can be an impediment. So if we look at, you'll see Chapter 70, funds, FY '26 estimate, you know, for local aid was $17,994,282, and for FY '27, it's $18,378,197. So, you know, when you look at that, it's a relatively small increase, which, you know, further hinders. Now, if you look at the local receipts, you'll see that, you know, it's dropping off. You look back in '25, it was, you know, over $3 million for excise. In '26, it was $2,793,000, and then in FY '27, it's estimated $2,793,641. Penalties and interest on taxes is a slight increase for 2027 over 25, but stable with 26, $392,308. And I won't read every one because people can see. I'll just point out some of the biggies. You'll see that there's been an uptick in the ambulance receipts. We went from, in '25, $1,415,000 to FY '27, $1,448,17. That's important, but you'll notice marijuana excise tax, and it wasn't because the board voted to close the license, but there is a drop in their tax. You'll see it went from $311,231 in '25 down to $210,812 estimated for FY '27. And it's good to see people going out to eat. And you see that meals tax jumped from $476,302 in '25 up to $507,795. So estimated local receipts are pretty stagnant at $6,592,169. And you'll see estimated available funds, $1,391,209. And then if you could just, yeah, perfect. Okay, now, what I'm going to do is I am just going to, this is available and everything will be online. I don't want to, you know, drag this out, but I'm just going to read by the category. So the first category is total general government. So in FY '25, it was $3,113,589. FY '26, the fiscal year that we're in, it was $3,210,137. And for FY '27, we're requesting $3,313,319. We go for total public safety. You'll see that public safety in FY '25 was $9,386,790. FY '26, $9,379,900. And for FY '27, we're asking $10,498,986. Thank you. Okay, I did see that. Okay. Perfect. Next, school department. As folks know, the select board, the school department, select board gave a timeline for the schools, and they've been working, and we've had great communication with the superintendent. So they're working to finalize their number by March 23rd. So they have a little less than a month. But, you know, right now we're projecting, and this is a draft number, So back in FY '25, it was $33,744,938. FY '26 fiscal year we're in, $33,891,182. And right now, as a draft number, schools are requesting $35,655,139. So we'll know by March 23rd what that number will be. Thanks for making those bigger. That was great, Andrew. Okay. Total highway and public works number for FY '25, they had received and spent $3,086,999. Their budget went down in FY '26. It was $2,919,288. And in FY '27, we're requesting $3,204,382. Next category is our total human service budget. In FY '25, the budget was $892,399. In FY '26, their budget was down to, was a decrease, and it was funded at $701,323. In FY '27, we're asking for a funding level of $736,479. And then total cultural and recreational. In FY '25, cultural and recreation received, where did it go? $920,106. In FY '26 fiscal year we're in, $919,503. And we're asking it to be funded at $938,467. In let's see, total debt service, and I know this is something we're still working on, so I would say, Andrew, I want to say that this is a draft number. So just to recap, so FY '25, $5,812,991. FY '26, $8,608,447. And a draft number for FY '27, $8,608,447. And we'll finalize that number. All numbers, just so folks know, there's nothing going on other than there's a lot of things that the financial team has to take a look at, and we'll have everything finalized. The drop dead date is that March 23rd date. Okay, total employee benefits. I'll just read the total is $13,231,043 for FY '25, $15,025,326 for the present FY '26 budget, and we're requesting, and this is a draft number also until we finalize, but the health insurance benefit does encapsulate an 8% increase built into the budget, so it's $15,325,326. And then we have some miscellaneous information. Not that the information itself is miscellaneous, but unfortunately that's the category that the stuff falls into, and you'll see it's some insurance, assessments, the cherry sheets, insurance abatement, etc. And we're requesting, the totality of that is $3,006,303. So the total request for FY '27 is $81,286,848. And then I'll go into some other information. Okay, so some other items that we have, we'll just do the school transportation, and this will be a raise and appropriate, but the school transportation's $19,902. Health imperative is $5. These are articles, standard articles that you'll see at town meeting. The health imperative is $5,000, and then the Arc of the South Shore, town meeting supports and giving them $2,500 in the past, and hope that they do. This category totals to $27,402. Okay, now some override detailed information. So I'm just going to go, so there's a funding gap in the assessor's office, and the reason I say things are in flux, so one of the things I'm looking at to alleviate some cost, no matter how small they are, We have an extra car that's available here that's in really great shape. It's only a couple of years old. The assessor's car that they have now, I think, it's 7 or 8 years old. It needs about $5,300 to almost $6,000 worth of work. I talked to DPW about that, and we're going to take that particular car out of service. That will alleviate that issue, and we'll probably end up auctioning that off. And there's a white vehicle that's going to replace that car for the assessors. Council on Aging, grant money for programming and operations. We're hoping that they get the $6,468. Because a lot of people ask, well, what will happen if the override doesn't pass? So this is a snapshot look at what is at stake. You know, DPW Highway, potential loss of $256,094. That means that they would lose 2 positions, and that would have an effect on stormwater projects. School department will need, you know, and this is an estimated number, not their official number, but about $1,763,957. What happens if that's not funded? That's about 30 positions of teachers, paraprofessionals, etc. Fire department, $275,514, and that is a bulk of that's overtime, equipment, maintenance, and training, all which is very important. You know, you hear a lot about overtime when it comes to like police and fire budgets, and it's always, you know, when you talk to citizens, they say, well, I don't understand. You know, we got a fully staffed department. Why do we have overtime? Well, we have overtime because what happens is, when you don't have excess, and there were folks, you know, around the state that believe municipalities are bloated with people. I'm very confident saying, after being here almost 2 months, we're far from that. We don't have excess capacity. We barely have enough people to provide the services that the residents demand of the town and that we should be provided. But how overtime works is, if you're on the fire or police department and you're entitled to vacation, you take a vacation day. So when you're out, whatever shift you were assigned that week, if you take a week, someone has to be brought in on overtime to cover, because we just can't have vacant shifts. We're not going to have, you know, the 11 to 7. We're not going to have any police out on the street, police in the community. You know, same thing with the fire department. If someone calls out, we have a 24-hour shift, we got to cover the 24-hour shift when people are out. And that's what drives the overtime cost. It's not that it's mismanagement, but our employees do get sick. Our employees are entitled to vacation. And when they're out, you know, we have to have a certain level of staffing to operate the fire trucks, the ambulance, the paramedics, the police officers that are doing the patrols, you know, maintaining the police station, things like that. So I thought it was important I just spend a little time on defining overtime. You know, health for hazardous waste disposal, you know, that would be 29,000 would be lost. It's important that, you know, we have the waste disposal. That, you might say, well, what is the Board of Health? What is the waste disposal? People come and drop off their needles, medication, etc. So, library materials. As you heard earlier in my presentation, a lot of people go to the library. I had an opportunity to spend a few hours over there with Deb. I know Deb's here, there she is. And it's great to see the kids in the library, the parents, we have a number of reading club groups that go there. But materials, you know, one of the things that make the libraries great is that, you know, kids and adults alike, you know, they're waiting for those new materials, those new books to come in. So unfortunately, if the override didn't pass, then we would, you know, library would be affected by that amount. Planning department supplies $1,730,000. Yeah, they would like the 1 million. $1,730 for supplies and advertisement. Police, it would affect them $841,313. And how the chief would cover that, there would be 7 administration positions, 3 patrolmen, 3 part-time. Thank you, Chief. 3 part-time officers, and then 6 officers. And that would be devastating to the police force. for the first time, there is a full complement, which helps the police department and the chief manage the overtime by having these officers, and we have a lot of young officers that are there. They wanted to come to Abington. They were very impressed with the police department and everything that they have to offer the community, so that would be devastating to the police department and, quite honestly, devastating to the community. Because we need to have the police out there keeping our residents safe. We need to have the school resource officers at the schools. And, just to go back to the fire department, if we have to make cuts, and we got to cut the second ambulance, we only have 2 ambulances. In a night where there's a bad snowstorm, or even a night where it's just busy and there's a couple of accidents, you don't want to be the second call when there's only 1 ambulance, because it not means that they're not going to get somebody there, but the ambulance is going to have to come from some other surrounding town, because we have reciprocal agreements. We help out our surrounding towns, they help us out, but shortest and quickest time is to have our people here on the ground. Recreation, $5,000. That would affect their seasonal staff. Seasonal staff does an enormous amount of work on programs and, a number of other sundry items. Town accountant, training and auditing, $6,336. Town clerk, I'm happy to report there would be no impact because election costs are required. We can't cut those. Town manager and town office buildings are okay at the moment. The treasurer, part-time assistant, $24,766. That will be the effect in the treasurer's office. Veterans, it would affect veterans' benefits in the amount of $28,689. And we take great pride in what we provide to our veterans here in the town. I know Adam's working on, I had the opportunity last night before FinCom to speak to the veterans group, and they have a great new initiative about having drivers that will drive the veterans to their medical appointments, not only locally to South Shore Hospital or Brockton, but the possibility of being able to drive them into the VA in Boston. So that would be important. Employee benefits, Medicare cost increase, expected family plan additions, et cetera. That would have an effect of about $300,000. So in total, right now, and this is estimated until everything is finalized, and like I said, March 23rd, we're finalized, but it was important that we get these numbers out, but we're looking at $3,625,439 of what the override would represent to maintain the services that we have. And later on, we'll go through, but Andrew put this nice chart together, you'll see, and it's spelled out by each of the categories. And when the selectmen early on had put together the override and the departments for the overrides, we'll just simply plug these numbers in, and the board will vote on the estimated numbers with probably some language to either for them to have another meeting or to authorize me to make the appropriate adjustments after notifying the board of that. And then, I think that's it for the, okay. Capital requests, we'll talk just a little bit about capital requests too. So, capital requests, we had some real challenges. I think our total number, if you could, yeah. So our total request was $6,709,465,552. We don't have that anywhere near that. So we have to be very frugal, and we had to prioritize what our needs are going to be. And then Town of Abington's FY27 capital plan with funding. So I'll just quickly read through this because this is important. So we have the police tasers. This is 2 out of 5 years. We financed it over 5 years to lessen the burden and to be mindful of the cash flow. So the taser, the second installment would be $17,249.52. We also, to save money, we do the fleet. We use the fleet plan, and cruiser lease, that we're in the second year of a 5-year plan, so that's going to cost $142,377. And you'll see that, like the previous, that's being funded out of some money that was left over from free cash. And athletic field painting machine, $48,283, and that's being funded out of free cash. And last night I was at FinCom, and a question came up from a FinCom member, is why couldn't we just share this machine with somebody else? This is something that the DPW has to constantly do, remark the fields, and we have a lot of activity 7 days a week, so this is something that's used every single day, certainly not in the snow, during the blizzard or things like that. Woodshed at the schools, so we've had a number of schools where we need to update the fire panel. And I did talk to the fire chief, and his staff had been working with the superintendent, so we need to replace the Woodsdale fire panel. That's $18,000, that would be covered out of free cash. Beaverbrook boiler, they had a really tough winter this year with the boiler being down. They had to bring in a company to do some hookups to be able to, in the event that it completely went down, can't have kids in a school where there's no heat. So they had to make the necessary connections, had to be added so you can bring a boiler on a trailer truck and hook it up. But to replace one of the boilers, it's $275,000. That's going to have to be funded from stabilization fund, which will require an article on the town meeting to take that from stabilization fund. And stabilization fund, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I know the select board will want to probably have a discussion. We have about 3.2 million. So we don't want to spend that. That is our rainy day fund. The S&P and companies like that look at us every time we go out to a bond or a band, they look at what we have for backup. So the money is there. I think that one of the things that we've got to think about is, we don't control what town meeting does. Town meeting can do what they want, but town meeting usually likes to have some guidance. So with the 3 million in there, it's about 6 years before Plymouth County's fully funded, 2032. If they don't move the date anymore, and if we get to 2032, in 2033, then the money, the additional money, because you'd always have pension money that you have to contribute to pay the people that are retired, but the additional accelerated money, that would free up of, I don't want to speculate because I don't want someone 7 years from now saying, well, Mr. Maresco, that new town manager, said we were going to have, $5 million to spend. We'll have at least a few $1 million more to spend. So we want to think about, as we try to go through the challenging times, maybe, I think the select board will have some discussion about maybe limiting, or at least asking that we limit to about $500,000 a year, because that would get us at the end of that would get us through the 6 years. And, we'll continue to use free cash and continue to make cuts and whatever we have to keep the numbers down. Okay. Beaverbrook fire panel, $18,000, that's from free cash. The Froyle fire panel, $18,000 from free cash. Then we have pending, we have some water and that would be covered by water retained earnings. Sewer, the pipe, Jeter, $145,000, that would be covered by sewer retained earnings. Sewer also pan and tilt pipe cameras, I'm assuming to look in the pipes. $75,000, that would be paid for by sewer and retained earnings. Sewer needs a new vehicle, it's a Ford Explorer. They'll go out to purchase at the bid on, and that's $51,170. That would also be covered by sewer retained earnings. And golf, pending their expense, they haven't put anything in, but whatever they request, they have retained earnings that would be covered under. So a grand total of $808,079.52, of which $261,909 from free cash, $275,000 from stabilization, $271,170 from SOAR retained earnings, and that's the grand total, 808,7952. Available funds, so free cash was came in slightly higher than what was anticipated, which is always a good thing, $3,289,054. We used $2,835,662 to help with that level of funding. There was a misclassification of some opiate money that will have to be reclassified and go back to the opiate trust fund. That's $122,824, which leaves available free cash at $330,569. And as I mentioned, stabilization fund has $3,217,083. Water retained earnings has $5,040,777. SOAR retained earnings of $2,121,650. Golf retained earnings of $358,563. And cable retained earnings of $35,408. Okay, and so now you've seen the actual budget, level funded and level service budgets, town government, and our residents must decide what they want for services and what they are willing to give up. A level funded budget will give the town the exact funding level that they had in FY26. But in reality, it's a reduction in services because several expenses continue to increase. Pensions, health care, which we've put in an 8% increase because that's what we're being told. It potentially could go up. CBA, collective bargaining agreements, fuel costs, utilities, and debt services. Some of our costs, and I failed to mention, were offset by credits. So we were able to sell, we have some net metering. Stoughton did a fairly large purchase of credits, which helps us financially. I want to say, am I correct, Andrew, about $432,000? Okay, thank you. Level service budget, if supported by a positive vote at both town meeting and the special election, will provide our residents with the same level of services that they were provided in FY26, but would require the infusion of those additional funds that we went over, which is $3,625,439, to cover the increase in providing those services through an override. The override will require our residents to pay a few more dollars weekly to maintain the same level of service received in FY26. I've asked our town accountant to put up on the town's website a calculator for our residents to cost out what the increase would be for the additional cost. And I think that's, one of the things residents have to take into, and the select board did the menu approach so that, a lot of our residents have financial challenges, senior citizens, young families, etc. So they may pick and choose what they can best afford and how they can. One of the things I think that will help them is having this calculator up there. And so I know Andrew's going to work on that. And cost savings, additional revenue, because what can we do? What can I do? So one of the things that I'm going to continue to work on, we've tried unsuccessfully to sell two pieces of property, the North School and the Center School. I've talked to the chair. I've talked to the Inspector General. We're going to do a new RFP to go out. We had two other ones. One of the challenges to those schools is they're full of asbestos. They were built during the WPA, and at that time, asbestos was a great insulator. And today, whether you redo the building or you want to tear the building down, you own those costs of remediation. So, and then I did ask the Inspector General if we can auction off those, because we'd like to be able to get some additional revenue in to reduce some of our other costs. Also, the reduction of the town hall fleet of cars, I took a look and see that we can get rid of one less vehicle that we have to insure, one less vehicle that we have to do maintenance on, and better use of a vehicle that's sitting there. We could also I'm going to require purchases of hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles where applicable, because they're good for the environment, and we certainly want cars that are efficient especially when it comes to gas consumption. As folks know, we got the new gas island, the new salt shed. Salt shed's been getting a lot of use. It's very beneficial to DPW. Trailer trucks can go right in, but the fuel depot, we've got better control over fuel and people using it. They have either a swipe card or a fob that identifies who they are, so the appropriate department then gets charged for the gas use. We're rebidding. I've worked with Chris. Chris has been great. The trash and recycling contract was up. It's a rather big contract. Recycling is what's driving the cost of the trash. The initial contract was a 3-year with a 1-year option. The last year, it ends on June 30th, 2026. We've put the finishing touches on an RFP. Chris and I have met a number of times. Chris talked to his board. Chris sent me the updated one with the corrections, a few other things that we've got to plug in. I did send that to town council this morning to review, and we'll get that out so that we get companies to bid. And, the bulk hauler that we've had now has been great. I haven't heard a lot of complaints, really any since I've been here. And, hopefully they'll rebid. I explained the situation to them. But we're under the law, we could have just re-signed them for some reasonable, but, I've got to make sure that we're accounting for every penny, so we went out to bid on that. I'm going to be reviewing property insurance and health insurance to look if there are ways that we can save some funds there, whether we go out to bid on our property insurance, look at other options for our health insurance. But, I can tell you, the state's in the same. You may see that they're cutting funding for GPL drugs because their cost was so high. I think the state's health insurance went up like an obscene number, like 14%. Maya went up at about 11.6 last year. Maya, for those who don't know it, it's the Interlocking Association. It's part of the Mass Municipal Association to help municipalities, and they provide insurance. Also, we're going to be looking into, for when we have to purchase vehicles and some big trucks and, even fire trucks was brought up by FinCom, and I think it might be a good idea to take a look at it. We'd have to look at the vehicle, but maybe vehicles that are 1 or 2 year old. Sometimes other towns get themselves into financial situations where they have to unload some big assets, and, we might be able to pick those up at some cost savings. Consolidation of municipal services, I'm going to look around and see where we can do that. None of this is etched in stone, and I'm saying this, and there'll probably be some department heads that will be upset, but, I think every year we have to, take a look at this. I certainly have a responsibility. The select board expects me to do this, and this is something that we're going to do. And that is these intermunicipal service agreements. Maybe we combine veteran services, maybe, we bring in a couple of other towns, and maybe Adam takes on that role, would have to adjust the pay. The other towns would contribute their cost into that, and they may be able, some costs built in. If we, share with 3 towns, there would be some cost savings. We could do that. I've seen other models where, they do that in other places with animal control. They do that. We already do that with dispatch. That works out well. Inspectional services for the Board of Health, even some of the building inspections, we can maybe share some of those. So we'll be exploring, and then maybe even take a look at, and I haven't had the opportunity to even mention this to the superintendent, but, school cost, maintenance of the buildings, and, maybe we look at, either consolidating some of our buildings or, looking at the possibilities of what if we wanted to combine with some other towns to get our costs down. So those are some things that we'll need to take a look at. And these are opportunities that may present themselves, they may pan out, or they may not work, but during difficult times, I think, you have to really sharpen the pencil and take a look at everything. Other challenges going forward, Andrew and I are going to spend some time after the budget, really, to get back. I want to get an updated capital investment plan. That's where we take a look at long-range plans, which building is going to need roofs, heating, air conditioning, parking lot replacement, stuff like that, so that we can put a calendar together so that, we've got an accurate handle on, it's very important that we maintain our buildings, maintain parking lots, things like that. So we have those responsibilities. Capital budget needs, that gets into the roofs, the HVAC, parking lots. One of the things that I did is I did implement, and I notified the board and all the department heads, we implemented 10% cut to expenses. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, but what I was concerned about, we're starting to get bills of money that's not accounted for in the budget. For instance, the heating system went down at Town Hall with $7,800 to fix that. That wasn't something that was added. I need to cover that cost. We're going to have to address snow and ice. I'm not going to put, John's been too busy cleaning up, so I don't want to. But I would say that I'm speculating, and that we're probably $1 million now. 1.3. I was way off. 1.3. Thank you, John. 1.3, and that's a number if we keep. And I did mention this last night at FinCom. One of the things about that, because people always say, well, I don't understand. We're not getting snow days. Now, they're not saying that this year because we had the blizzard. But there are probably, during the winter, we've had cold periods, warm periods during the day, and the temperatures go down below freezing, which then creates black ice. DPW has to go out and sand and rock salt. So we've got the cost of the sand, the rock salt, and the staff to go out at overtime at night to be able to do that. So those are costs, that's what drives the snow and ice budget. As people, even like last year was a very mild winter, and I'm sure Abington was no different than Marshfield. I had residents complaining, well, I can't believe it was barely 3 inches of snow. How could the snow budget be X? And you have to explain to people. But I want to leave on a positive note, and then I'll answer questions. Together, we'll get through this difficult time in Abington and come out of this challenge stronger and resilient, thanks to everyone in this room. So thank you. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. And I know that any questions I'm not capable of answering, we have Andrew here, our Finance Director.
Any questions by the board? Mr. Donovan?
If I could, a statement, then I've got a couple of questions, if I may. First of all, I think in your presentation, I want it noted and stated publicly that we did not address, or it has not been addressed, and the intent is not to address anything related to trash. That issue was heard last year, loud and clear from the townspeople, so that the trash money will be inclusive of the overall operating budget, as we've said, with no fee structure being proposed. So just sort of get that out there, because I'm sure the rumors have already started, which they are just that, rumors. Secondly, I just want to make point, and you've answered a lot of my questions, but I want to focal in on the receipt part of it, is that in order just to get level funded, that's the same amount of money that was appropriated last year, and we had projected when we originally formulated the budget recommendations before Michael got here, was we were going to roughly need $2.9 to $3 million to make it level funded. And that's what it's boiled down to, $2.8 million for the budget and $261.9 for capital. So that's roughly, round numbers, $3 million just to achieve what we appropriated last year. In order to achieve level service, which is the services that everybody is used to receiving, we've proposed a 7-question department by department override for the people to consider on May 16th. Before I get to that, I just want to make comment on the capital plan. We have to have a separate standalone article based on bond council's, my understanding, for the authorization to borrow. It's not monies that has to be appropriated this year, but the authorization to borrow $1.6 million to deal with the soil issues that we encountered at the new construction site for the DPW fire facility. So that will be a standalone article right after the capital plan, as that's my understanding. I know Andrew's going to be tracking the year-to-date actuals on the local receipts, and as we're coming in here, But the thing that I want to state too is that the governor in her House 1 budget, the amount of local aid, unrestricted local aid, Chapter 70 and unrestricted, has been very minimal. And you look over the course of time over the last, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to guess, the last probably 7 to 8 years, one year we had a great big spike of about 13%. And each year it's gone down, 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 down. The communities, as you can see around and what's going around us, we cannot sustain our operations without increased state aid. And it's something that I know our legislators are in tune on, and I'm hopeful, being an election year, that, you know, when it comes time to debate those figures before the House and Senate, that they will understand that, because without any additional aid, you can see the situation that we're in. Having said all of that, I want to get to my questions on the expenditure side. Of the, and we will take a vote on the specific department-by-department numbers that you've articulated, and you've articulated very well what the impact would be if it's not approved. But I guess the question that I would have to you, and probably in 2 or 3 parts, would be, when, if for people out there listening, if the override should fail, how soon would they see the reduction in services? And if there were to be layoffs, is there a cost to layoffs, which we know there are, but if you could kindly hit on that. And how are you going to manage those cuts as it relates to the town hall operations?
Okay, I'll do the 3 parts. I'll do the first one, but I also want to draw everyone's attention. So there's the state aid numbers, and the far right column has the percentage. And you'll see, as Selectman Donovan mentioned, there was a spike, and then it's been trailing off ever since. So first off, if it fails, I will notify people that Monday, if the election's on a Saturday, we'll notify department heads that we're going to have to move forward with the reductions that were articulated, and those departments will see the reduction. Those reductions go into effect on July 1, the FY27 budget. The second part of your question was
On the
cost.
the cost.
33, so every person, so the state has a formula for unemployment, and the number is 33,600, and we have to, that's a serious number that we have to take into consideration. So every staff person that we reduce, there's a requirement that we take into consideration the unemployment tax. So it's almost like for, every 2 people, or certainly every 3 people, you have to have an additional person to cover that cost. Now, we've had a conversation with the superintendent. She come up with a great idea, maybe taking a look at healthcare, because people are going to be laying off. If they get laid off, they might have had a family plan. Well, the family plan has X cost, so if we don't use it, maybe some of that cost can offset the cost that we're required by the state. The 33,600 is not a number that we make up. It's a state mandated number that we have to take into consideration of. And Andrew told me exactly how, if you don't mind, Andrew, could you just elaborate on what that 33.6 represents?
So that is the maximum unemployment benefit that any one individual can get. What I'm working on is an actuarial model that takes into account BLS data about how long employment claims last on average. So we mentioned that 33K is a max. Hopefully, people that we let go won't be on that long-term employment for the max amount of time. So we use historical data, we can come up with an estimate on how much we need to reserve, and that number should be less than the 33K, and funded by health insurance.
Okay, the only thing I want to make mention of, if on the recommendation in terms of if they are not utilizing health insurance, I think we've got to be very careful on that, only because of COBRA. If they are separated, they're not on service, and then all of a sudden, if they're on their spouse's plan or whatever, then they have the ability, to come back. So which I know you
That's a great point, Mr. Donovan, because we have to take that into consideration.
Yep.
So if they aren't getting insurance, they can still get COBRA?
Yeah, so if they're, let's take, for instance, they're not taking the town's plan.
Right.
And they're on a spouse's plan. They get laid off. Say the spouse loses insurance, or they have the under the statute, they have the ability to do that.
Okay.
But, again, that's something, it's a case-by-case scenario, which,
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to factor that out.
And then the final part of your question, Mr. Donovan?
Was, how are you going to manage the cuts as it relates to town hall?
So, there's a number of options. We've already started to look at that. So with the reduction in town hall, once we start to reduce those numbers, I mentioned in my presentation that we're very lean. And certainly I encourage citizens to come up. I know they come up, they pay their taxes, their excise, they drop their local census off, things like that, and they walk through and, you can see that we don't have staff falling over one another. When we start to further reduce those numbers, I'm going to have to take a look at closing down during the day for a couple of hours, somewhere in the middle of the day, because it's not going to be fair to the employees that are there. They have a lot of requirements and paperwork that have to be done each and every day, especially offices like the building and financial constraints of the treasurer collector, the building department, some of the bigger departments. We'll have to look to maybe have them closed a couple of hours each day, just so that they will have time to get caught up on the mandatory paperwork that they have to do. It's first and foremost, we certainly want people to be able to come in. We're very fortunate. I remember my first day at Town Hall as the interim. I'm leaving that day because I've always come in, drove out and parked, and was parked out back. I drive out, and I couldn't believe that I think I actually called Roger or Kevin to say, oh my God, I said, it's like a drive-through. I said, I didn't know that this was, I thought this was like maybe a bank building or something. And they said, no, we did that for the customers to make it easier. That's fantastic. I'm not aware of any other town halls that have that. But, first and foremost, we want people to be able to pay their taxes because we're reliant on that. It's the biggest chunk of revenue that we get. And, the treasurer collector, all that reconciliation requires time. So, yeah, there would be a shutdown of certain hours. Would have to see, I know when I was a selectman back in like 03 or 02 or something, we shut down for a couple of hours during the day, sort of at lunch. So people would take their lunch and they would have a couple of hours to get caught up on the paperwork. And, it does provide some inconvenience for folks if that's the only time they have a babysitter or something. But with today, people can drop payments into boxes. We can pay online. I'm not a taxpayer, but they can pay online here. So we have other remedies for folks. So it's all about planning. I'd want to have, my first thing would be to have a department head meeting and talk about the rollout, the implications, when things would go into effect, and lay out everything so that they have time to talk to their employees. And then we start to initialize those plans as we start to close out FY26. And then when we come back and the clock strikes July 1, we're in the new fiscal year. And then those cuts that are mandated because the override didn't pass will go into effect. And, I think I'm not going to speak for the superintendent, but, she'll probably do a similar process.
Thank you.
Can I ask so would the public know any positions that would be lost? Would they know what those positions are? Like, if it's the schools, would the public know who exactly would be going if they aren't in favor of it? Or is that something we'd find out after?
Do you want to answer that?
Felicia, can we get you up to the, sorry.
And why the superintendent's making it up? Yes, our folks would know, and we'll have a list of the position by name.
The school has a significant amount.
Thank you. Actually, on Tuesday night, I'll be laying out the positions for the community. It won't be the people's names.
Right.
But it'll be the actual positions.
Okay.
28.1 right now, so.
Okay.
The people,
Go
yep.
ahead.
The people that are going to be impacted in the school, they were told preliminarily before vacation that their position, should the override fail, would be eliminated.
While you're here, Felicia,
Sure.
and to the extent that you can, and I understand, I don't know where the school committee is in their deliberations, but when we spoke before, to achieve level service, you were, I think, 1.763.
Yep.
Do you think, and Has the school committee voted on that number yet?
They have not.
Okay,
They'll be
that's fine.
voting on March 10th,
March
our
10th.
number.
All right.
We, there are a few things in our budget that, when we present in early January, that, waiting for the governor's budget to come out, making some assumptions around our chapter, our circuit breaker reimbursement, which is special education reimbursement program. We have a bus bid that's going out. So there are some numbers that were very preliminary in January, and that we anticipate by mid-March we'll have a better, typically they go in our favor, numbers.
Okay,
for our
so
budget.
that, I guess, why I asked the question is when I make the motion on the individual ones, my motion would be to give him the authorization to adjust it to whatever it is. But the intent being all along was to bring it up to level service. That's the level service number contingent upon whatever you decide.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
And just so the board knows, and the public, if there are any parents out there, I'm actually going to the school committee meeting on the 4th, and I'll do a very similar budget presentation that I did here for the school committee and any parents that show up.
Very good, thank you.
Anybody else on the board have any questions?
I got one question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, maybe, police chief. So if you only get level funded, you have to make cuts to, your staff, was it 6 patrolmen, 7 admin, and 3 part-time? What happens to those shifts?
We will lose. These are not me adding 7 admin positions. All of those positions are lost. So what happens is the administrative positions, there are 4 of those positions that have to be filled. It's public records, it's firearms, it's court prosecutor, and it's evidence. Those have to be filled. Those are all done by civilians right now. So I would have to take, we'd lose 6 police officers off the top, and if you want me to name them, I can name them. I've had those conversations with people. We would lose 6 police officers, bringing us down to 14 patrol officers. I would take 4 of the remaining 14, and I would have to plug them into the 7 admin, the 4 positions I just named. So I will have 10 patrol officers for the street, putting us right back to where we were when I first started. When I was hired, I was told my main mission was recruitment and retention, and as a team, we promised we'd fix it, and we delivered that in less than a year. So I will lose those positions. We'll have 10 patrol officers. That means we will not have a single officer in the school. And the cost, the total cost of overtime between desk coverage, vacation time, personal time, the unemployment would be about $2 million a year. We're asking for about $850,000.
You answered my second question already.
$850,000 to save the positions we have, or we spend $2 million to fill the holes.
And I think people, I want to just say, when you say 10 patrol officers, that isn't 10 on a shift. That's 10 to cover all of the
10 to
shifts.
cover. So it's 24 hours a day, and we have established, and it's too small now, but we've established a minimum of 2 patrol officers and 1 sergeant on the road. And I promise you, I will not, no matter how few officers we have, I won't deviate from that. I will not have 1 patrol officer and 1 sergeant. I will not do it. I won't. I won't do it to the officers, and I won't do it to the community. So this is, I can't stress this enough. This would be brutal to the community and to our agency.
And I think people need to understand, we do not want to have schools without police presence nowadays, so.
No. And this is, like, I promise you, this is not sky is falling. These are true, real numbers. This is, I've had the conversation with Felicia. I've had the conversations with the SROs. Like, this is, I had to pull an SRO last year, and it wasn't to leverage money from the taxpayers at all. The fact is, we had positions that weren't filled. We filled them. And we didn't fill them with excess. The town manager articulated well. We were lean to begin with, and we're lean now. We're still operating lean even with a full staff. We have, like, in any other police department around, those positions for evidence and court prosecutor are filled by sworn police officers. I have retired part-timers. Like, we can't get leaner than we are. So these cuts would be just crushing. We're on pace right now for 1,000 arrests. The year I started, I think we were at like 560. Our kids are doing an unbelievable job. They're just amazing. They're so proud to wear this uniform, and they just, to look them in the eye and say, I might lose you, was a very, very, very difficult conversation to have.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
I'd like the fire chief to come up and say, Jack, can you come up and tell us how these cuts would affect your department?
Absolutely. I kind of echo what the police chief has said. We worked really hard the last 3 years to operate as efficiently as we can. We needed to put in a warrant article 2 years ago for $385,000 to replace outdated firefighting gear that has expired. To help the town out, we found a plan that we could piecemeal it, and through a couple of grants to try to chip away at it through our operating budget, because we knew what the town was under. We're about 3/4 of the way there, maybe, and that's gonna put us behind the cutting, when it says equipment, that's gonna put us behind for whatever, another year or so. But it was important for us to pull that article 2 years ago because of what the town's facing, and we're trying to work with them. This isn't something with the gear where it's, okay, we want brand spanking new gear. This gear expires after 10 years. If we want to send someone to the fire academy, we're renting equipment right now that they can use because ours isn't certified. The academy won't accept them without certified, so we're almost there. The air breathing apparatus that they use, that they go into buildings with, that they go into hazardous situations with, the bottles and the packs expire up to a certain point. We're about 2/3 there. We're chipping away at it, and we've had a plan. This is gonna really, really hit us hard with that. Michael spoke about the overtime and time off. It's not even just that, we apply every year for a SAFE grant that our people get into schools and teach fire safety, and we've done it for decades now. It doesn't cover the cost of that. What we get from the state covers about 1/3 of it. We eat the other half of it. It's gonna cut that. You're seeing our guys out there that are doing the training and the fake burns and the firefighter survival training, rescue training. It cuts that because it's beyond our normal training budget. Maintenance. The vehicles that we have now with the newer emissions, with like the ambulances and the fire engines, we can't fix them as easily as we could have before. Marcus Buckley from the DPW department is amazing. He does more than any one guy I see. He's just incredible. He can't keep up with every single vehicle in the entire town, never mind just the fire department. So we have to send them out to specialized places. We've limped along with things, literally like last year delaying, okay, well, this truck, we're gonna take it out of service the last 2 months of the year and use the backup one because we can't afford tires to get on it. That's where we're at on that. So it's a variety of things. I did everything I could humanly do possible to stop short of it affecting the second ambulance. Because if we have to drop down one person working, we have to take the second ambulance out of service. Beyond the financial, income that comes in, the $1.4 million we bring in every year with the ambulance revenues, it's a safety thing. And I think Michael had mentioned it earlier, that if you have that second ambulance call, this happens every day. This happens 2 to 3 times a day, sometimes 6 times a day. We're our second ambulance, and it could be our first ambulance goes, they respond, they transport someone to the hospital. That second ambulance might be the bigger call of the two, and they're tied up there. So it's not a matter of, okay, well, this is the backup. This is it. We're doing so much more with less. Our manning right now is 6 members per shift. It's the same manning we had in 1970 when they were running about 900 calls a year. We're running about 4,000 calls a year. We got back to that 6 because we were successful with a national grant from FEMA so many years ago. And Chief Nuttall was very creative in a way of putting the second ambulance up, saying, we can maintain this. We're the jack of all trade department, where we do so much more. And we talk about the ambulance, and a lot of people have mentioned to me, what do you think about outsourcing at a private ambulance company? So this is the situation. If a private ambulance company comes in, they're gonna charge the community at least $1 million to come in to provide service. They have to space them out regionally. They can't provide them as fast as we do. Then on top of it, they collect that ambulance revenue of $1.4 million. That's a huge loss for us. You have your firefighters here. We are cross-trained, and we're proud that we might be the only department in the South Shore that every single member of our department's a paramedic. You get the highest level of emergency management, medical training you can get at a moment's notice. And I can sit at home and I take a breather for dinner and I've got my scanner on and I can hear an address and I say, that's this person right here. He's got congestive heart failure, he's got hypertension, this is this. Everybody knows, it's our community and we know. We don't ever want to give that up. It's huge. So is this going to affect the second ambulance? No, but it's that close. And the next step is going to affect it. So we've done everything short of that. We've talked about it with our people. We're so cognizant of everything. Storm coverage. Instead of having 3 or 4 people on splitting the town, might be one additional guy. Is that going to do much? Probably not, because when we're trying to dig out a trench to get to someone's front door and someone's doing CPR on someone, it takes a lot more than the 4 people that are going to respond if everybody's available and the ambulances aren't at the hospital. So I'm not trying to be dramatic with it, I'm just being real with it, that we cut right down to the edge, and we're always going to be straightforward and honest with you. We're not going to try to, fluff anything, because our honesty is our trademark. That's what we're here for, is to help the community. I'm a member of the community, so.
But if I could, Chief.
Yes.
But would it be a true statement, though, that if something should happen, so you factored out your budget based on current situations, but if something should happen where you had a fire and you had a couple of people out injured, or if you had an inordinate amount of calls, that could very well affect the second ambulance, because the funding wouldn't be there for.
That's actually a correct statement, Kevin, yes, that would. We're planning on everything being as is. We can't predict that. We have someone out right now fighting through an injury now, and we're limping along. We're watching it closely. We watch it every week. We balance the budget every week. But yeah, we're in the unforeseen business. That's what we do. It's my wife jokes with me and says, boy, you pay attention to every little detail and how do you sleep? And I said, that's our job, is we have to. And we got to take that into account, that we don't know what's going to happen. We could have a call with 2 people injured. We're good and we do the best we can, but yeah, it's unforeseen. We just don't know. And we don't want to be marching back to the town manager every 5 minutes saying, we're in trouble. So that's what we've tried to do.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Does anybody else out in the crowd want to get up and say anything?
If not, I've got
Sure.
I've got basically 3 motions, if I could. One, I'm going to make a motion that the selectmen go on record as recommending approval of the town manager's budget as it relates to level funded for the initial recommendation to town meeting. Because I would view the budget, as we've said ad nauseum, the budget will be presented to town meeting sort of A and B. A is the level funded, which we have just gone over. So that's my motion, that we recommend approval on that as delineated by the town manager.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Secondly, I'm going to make a motion, and I'm going to quickly go down. We had previously voted the 7 questions to be detailed on the special election that was previously called for May 16th. And therefore, the motion will be to insert these numbers in the order in which the ballot will be approved, has been approved, with the provision that we further authorize the town manager to make adjustments as it relates to the final number before it's printed with the clerk. So these are the cursory numbers as we sit here today, and they may be tweaked, as the school superintendent has indicated, once they know their final numbers. But I want to caveat that to all other departments as well, because if local receipts trend bigger and you're able to squeeze out a few more, or if the legislature, I doubt it like hell, but if all of a sudden they decide they're going to get local aid numbers before we go to town meeting, which I don't foresee, but if they do, so at least you'll have that authorization. So The question now comes on Articles 1 through 7 as it relates to the fire department will be 275,514. The police department, 841,313. The school department, 1,763,957. The Department of Public Works, 261,094. The Council on Aging, 6,468. The library, 13,964. Town Hall and related departments, 463,130, with the provision the town manager is authorized to tweak those numbers if necessary. The selectmen would recommend approval of those on a B factor for town meeting, and these will be the numbers that'll be presented to the people in the ballot questions as I've delineated.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote is unanimous.
Thirdly, as it relates to the capital budget, I move we approve the recommendations as set forth by the town manager, recommending approval of the same, and also with the provision that the 1.6 million of authorization to borrow to abate the soil issues at the fire and DPW site will be a separate article as recommended by bond counsel. That is an authorization to borrow. The treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, will have the authority to borrow that. That would not come to in this current fiscal, in the proposed fiscal year. It'll be a fiscal year thereafter. It would be borrowed within the levy limit, so it would not be a override question. That's my motion.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. That cover what we need to for the,
Yes, it does, Mr.
okay.
Chairman.
Next on the agenda is review and vote on the investment policy.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Lindsay's here, if you want her to present, or if everyone's comfortable, you can vote.
I'm comfortable.
I'm
to vote.
comfortable. I've read it. I think it's very detailed. It relates to the general laws as is required, and I'm fine with it. If that's the case, I'll move we approve the investment policy.
Great job.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. Number 4, discussion on the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
I'll take this.
There's a lot of snow.
Yeah, I think a reasonable and prudent person would realize that there's too much snow out there. In order for for us to, we previously authorized a parade for March 15th. I think, again, a reasonable and prudent person would look out there and say that's not possible. We have situations, through no fault of anybody's, is that the banks, you can just about get 2 cars. When I was going to the gym this morning in Whitman, I almost got run off the road by a tractor trailer coming the other way because there wasn't enough room for both of us. I don't see how, in my mind, we're going to be able to have room for, A, people to park their cars, B, for the people to stand on the sidewalks, if at all, and I have a horrific vision of kids standing on top of snowbanks. So I am going to make a motion that we rescind our prior authorization allowing a parade in Abington on March 15th. We wait upon the organizers of the St. Patrick's Day Committee and say we would be favorably disposed to re-permit it sometime in April, with the understanding, I believe the town of Situate has already done that and postponed theirs till April. I believe the city of Boston will probably be doing the same thing. I just do not see how we can, in good conscience, allow this. And I say this as I was one of the original members of the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee way back when. So if anybody's going to take shots, understand that I had a vested interest in this, but I think public safety has to come paramount. Common sense has to come paramount. We've had 24.5 inches of snow on top of previous snows of roughly 21 inches. It just can't be done, folks. So my motion is to rescind our authorization, ask the organizers to reschedule it sometime in April, and we'll go from there.
And I just want to add, the other factor for me in this is the cost of removing the snow, which we don't have the money. So, and it's not because the new town manager's Italian, I want to point that out. I already got a call about that, and that isn't why we're changing the date. So motion's made to postpone.
Are any of the
No, to
organizers here?
rescind.
I'm sorry, to rescind the vote?
Are any of the organizers here? I don't know who.
I don't think so.
Nope.
I'll reach out to them.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote unanimous. Next on the agenda is the vote, discussion and vote on right to farm.
Well, since I started the chicken wars, this, I'm proposing that the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, I can't get used to saying it, will propose a article for town meeting and let the people determine whether they want to have Abington as a right to farm bylaw, a right to farm community. What this essentially does is says that the normal maintenance, a keyword, normal maintenance and keeping of livestock is not considered a nuisance as it relates to public health, Chapter 111, complaints. Clearly, if somebody goes beyond the normal maintenance and it becomes a health issue, that's a different kettle of fish or a kettle of eggs, or however the hell you want to say it. And I think with that, we will probably, in crafting the bylaw, there is standard language, but we're probably going to have a agricultural commission that will sort of serve as an arbiter of any complaints. So I would move we put this on the warrant and allow the people to make that determination as to how they wish to proceed.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. Next is discussion vote on gift acceptance of land parcel B under the Island Grove Pond near Center Ave. Does that have to be, that has to be voted at town meeting, correct?
Yes.
So what would we just be voting to put it on
Put it
the,
on the warrant. Yeah, I'll motion we put it on the warrant.
second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. Next on the agenda is review of the roadway acceptance procedure. This came up because of the issues on Gordon Circle. My suggestion would be that we have the town manager review the policy and make his recommendations to us and the planning board after his chance to review and talk to the town planner about it.
Yep.
I don't think we need a
That's-
vote. Is that all right with everybody?
Yep.
Okay, great. Next, vote on the town meeting warrant articles, which everybody should have the list. Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, sir. Would you like me to read through and?
I think we should.
Okay. So, first and foremost is the FY '27 operating budget article.
We already voted that.
We voted that, so then we have the override articles, which we've already voted. This is really to put them in the warrant, though, so maybe,
Yeah, well, what I can do is I will make a motion that we include in the warrant Articles 1 through 20, and then as it relates to the selectmen's recommendations, we've already taken a vote on Articles 1 through 4. If there's any late bills, we could do that. I move, recommend favorable action on the right to farm bylaw.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. As it relates to number 7, parcel B, land donation acceptance, I think that has to, it's up to town meeting, defer to town meeting. Veterans article allowing veterans whose primary residence is in a trust to still earn a tax exemption, recommend favorable action.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Matching grant funding, this is for,
this is for a match money when we apply for a grant, so that we have some seed money that's in the budget.
okay, these next articles, have these been calculated in your recommendations?
No,
They have not?
no.
All right. I would then therefore recommend unfavorable action on Article 9 relating to $25,000.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Article 10, health imperative funding, I recommend, if it's not included, recommend unfavorable action.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Arc of the South Shore, 2,500, recommend unfavorable action.
I'm going to vote to keep this because this is for kids with special needs, so, but motion's made.
Well, wait a minute, if,
Isn't that correct on that one, the Arc of the South Shore?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not voting against that one.
all right, well, it's 2,500.
Obviously for personal reasons for me, so.
All right, well, it's only 2,500, and you had, 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2,500. 2 you had some money left in free cash. I'll recommend favorable action on
Thank
Article
you.
11.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. School out-of-district transportation, is that something that, excuse me,
I was just going to say, I believe that's required.
that's required? I recommend favorable action.
And that's included in.
That's included?
That's included, okay.
Okay. Motion to approve, motion's made to approve, second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
St. Patrick's Day Parade overtime and details, I'm going to recommend unfavorable action. I think if Abington Celebrates has to raise their own money at some point, we can recommend unfavorable action and let the people determine at town meeting how they want to fund it, but
Motion's made. Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
okay, the CPC articles, the CPC, under the statute, recommends the various and sundry projects coming before the town votes up a yes or no, they can't amend it. I'll recommend favorable action.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
We voted on VOTEC, the operational budget, we voted on
Gordon Circle?
Gordon Circle, we voted on accepting Pembroke into it, CBA warrant article, what's that?
So that, it's just a blanket where we've been asked by library there, they would like to negotiate and they could be settled before.
Okay.
So
Well,
we need to have a placeholder.
Yeah. Snow and ice warrant article, I think we gotta wait on that.
Yeah.
Planning board articles defer to the planning board. Other than that,
So we don't need to take action on those? Or is that a motion for all the rest of that?
defer those to the planning board.
Okay, motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, next is discussion on process to fill vacancy for Board of Health.
Can I ask one question?
No. Go ahead, Mr. Riley. There's always one you gotta make an exception for.
I just had a question. You mentioned an article about seed money for grants. I don't know what number it was. Nine.
25,000.
Is that, usually we do that so it allows us to qualify? I know there's a lot of people taking grants. Is that going to zero out that for the coming year? I don't know.
Town meeting will get to vote it.
Yeah, so you're recommending not to fund it?
Correct.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then-
but it doesn't, no, to answer your question. You don't need that to do it. What this would be is monies to apply for the grants, so that, again, by the time we get to town meeting, this may gel a little bit more
Yeah.
better, and maybe they can see their way, but as we sit here today, we don't have the money.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else by Mr. Riley before we move on with the meeting? Sure, come on.
What is left after the budget presentation you made tonight? How much is left in free cash?
Oh,
Roughly
300,000.
300, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Next, we are discussing the vacancy on the Board of Health, calling for whatever we need to call for.
Well, let me say this about that. The vacancy, well, I'll first make a motion that we notify the clerk of the vacancy in the Board of Health, which I think she's already issued papers for, but just to make it official.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
Okay, as it relates to filling of the office, the statute says that the remaining board will notify us. We then meet with the board and fill a vacancy. However, the deadline for filing papers is March 9th. Historically, if more than two people have taken out papers for an office, we have opted to defer on the matter because we don't want to, let the people determine who they want to elect. If, however, after March 9th, there is only, so far as of today, there was only one person that has taken out papers. If that person returns the papers, and if that is the only person, I would have no problem filling the vacancy until the election, which then that person would have to stand on the election. But having said that, I think at this stage of the game, we defer on the matter until such time as we know after March 9th.
Push off till the next meeting.
Yeah.
Perfect?
Liz gave me that.
Oh, okay. One thing, can we refer Gordon Circle to the planning board for a recommendation?
Yeah. So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you to the town planner for passing that along. Vote to accept minutes for December 8th, January 27th, and January 29th. Motion to approve all three.
I'll make a motion to approve all three.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. We're going to vote to amend a vote we took for the Route 123 Auto Brokers, 256 Brockton Ave, to reflect 37 vehicles for sale, 5 for repair, 3 employee spaces, 3 customer spaces, for a total of 48. We forgot 5 for repair when we took the vote at the meeting that was held.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is appoint a hearing officer for the Hancock Street eminent domain takings.
I move we appoint the town manager as the hearing officer to report back to the board on his recommendations for the eminent domain takings on Hancock Street.
Motion is made. This is in regard to the Rotary, if I'm not mistaken. So as part of the road work up there, there'll be eminent domain takings from some of the parcels, and we have to have a hearing for it, and the town manager will be the hearing officer. Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The vote is unanimous. That's it. Motion to
There being no further business, I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, somebody else?
I'll second.
Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.